The night she almost canceled the blind date, her hands were trembling over the edge of the kitchen sink. Her reflection warped in the stainless steel as tears slid down her cheeks, and the only thought echoing through her chest was the quiet, devastating belief that she had somehow become invisible to the world. She had spent years convincing herself she was unchosen, overlooked, the woman people forgot to text back or remembered only when they needed something. That belief had settled into her bones so deeply that even hope felt embarrassing. And yet, on that quiet evening in a small town outside Asheville, North Carolina, something unseen was already shifting toward her life. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen when hearts are most tired, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a kind comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. Her name was Abigail Turner, a 32-year-old bookstore assistant who lived in a modest apartment above a bakery that smelled like warmth every morning and loneliness every night. She organized shelves for a living and disorganized thoughts for a pastime. Every day she watched couples drift through the aisles, hands brushing, laughter soft and careless, while she smiled professionally and went home alone. The blind date had been her sister Rachel's idea, arranged with almost stubborn optimism, as if sheer belief could rewrite years of quiet disappointment. Abigail had agreed because saying no felt heavier than risking embarrassment once more. Still, as she stood in her pale green dress with its borrowed confidence, she nearly sent the apology text. In another part of the city, across busy streets and glowing storefronts, a man named Nathaniel Brooks was filling his gas tank and wondering how his life had grown so quiet without him noticing. Nathaniel was 35, a civil engineer who built bridges for a living and spent his free time dismantling his own expectations. After losing his wife in a car accident 3 years earlier, he had learned how silent a house could be and how loud memory could become. Friends encouraged him to meet someone new, to remember that his life was still unfolding, but grief had taught him caution. Still, when his coworker Marcus insisted that meeting Rachel's sister might be exactly what he needed, Nathaniel found himself driving toward a little coastal-style restaurant in Greenville, South Carolina, unsure whether he was chasing healing or simply running from the ache of standing still. Abigail arrived first, choosing a small table near the window where streetlights painted the glass with gold. She folded her hands in her lap like a child waiting for a verdict and forced herself to breathe. Doubt pressed against her ribcage, with the old accusation that she was trying again, only to confirm what she already believed. Every couple who entered made her flinch. Every ticking second felt like evidence. When the door opened again and again without him, her heart slowly began to prepare itself for the familiar explanation. She imagined the polite excuse he might send, or the full silence he might choose instead. By the time 20 minutes had passed, she was already telling herself the story she knew by heart. Nathaniel's car broke down 2 blocks away. The irony would later make them laugh, but in that moment, stranded beneath a blinking streetlight with a dead engine and an aching chest, he felt the old fear rise again. That invisible hand that had yanked his life off course before. He could have called it a sign and turned back. Instead, he locked the car, loosened his tie, and walked the remaining distance with nervous determination. With every step, he told himself that showing up still mattered, even when timing felt cruel. Inside the restaurant, Abigail was counting the patterns in the tablecloth when the door finally opened, and a man stepped inside with wind in his hair and apology etched across his face. She did not know his name yet. She only felt the shift in the room, the quiet way anticipation leaned forward. Nathaniel scanned the tables once, twice, and then their eyes met. There was no dramatic music, no cinematic slow motion, only a simple recognition that felt like a held breath released. He crossed the room with awkward sincerity and took the seat across from her just as she reached for her water glass to hide the shaking in her hands. What unfolded between them was not a spark that ignited the room, but something steadier and more dangerous to loneliness: ease. Conversation drifted without effort from childhood stories to the strange comfort of routines, from favorite books to the ways grief and disappointment carve similar shapes in different lives. Abigail found herself laughing without guarding it, speaking without rehearsing. Nathaniel listened with the attention of someone who had learned how fragile moments could be. Neither of them pretended. The past had not left marks. They did not rush to impress. Instead, they discovered that honesty, when shared carefully, could feel like rest. As the evening deepened, rain began to streak the windows in silver lines, turning the street outside into a moving watercolor. Abigail felt something unfamiliar rising beneath her ribs, not the dizzy hope of fantasy, but the grounded warmth of being seen. For years she had believed she was too quiet, too ordinary, too easily passed over. Yet here sat a man who leaned toward her words as though they mattered, who smiled not from politeness but from genuine connection. Nathaniel, in turn, felt a door inside him open that he had sealed shut out of fear of breaking again. He did not feel guilty for laughing. He did not feel rushed to forget. He simply felt alive in a gentle way he had almost forgotten existed. When the restaurant closed and chairs were lifted onto tables around them, neither noticed at first. Outside, the rain had softened into a mist that wrapped the sidewalk in silver breath. They lingered at the doorway, both aware that something important was waiting in the decision of whether to end the night now or let it stretch a little longer. The car trouble came up then, and Abigail insisted on driving him back, the words leaving her mouth with surprising bravery. The ride was quiet but not awkward, filled with the calm that grows when two people no longer feel the need to fill every silence. Over the weeks that followed, their lives slid gently into each other's orbit. They met for coffee before work, shared long walks through quiet neighborhoods, and learned the hidden corners of one another's stories. Abigail discovered that Nathaniel still set an extra place at the table, sometimes out of habit. Nathaniel learned that Abigail used to read to her father during his final months in a hospital in Missouri. They did not try to erase these truths. They learned to set them gently between them, not as burdens, but as shared understanding. Slowly, the story Abigail had told herself for years began to weaken. The idea that she was unwanted lost its authority with every small moment of affection that asked nothing of her except to exist. One evening, months later, they attended Rachel's engagement party together in a bright hall, filled with warm lights and loud music. Abigail stood among laughter and watched Nathaniel across the room as he joked with strangers who already felt like friends. It struck her then how thoroughly her life had shifted without fanfare. There was no sudden rescue, no dramatic confession that rewrote her worth in a single moment. Instead, it had been rewritten in dozens of ordinary ways, in the steady showing up of someone who chose her again and again without spectacle. Near the end of the night, when the crowd thinned and the music softened, Abigail stepped outside into the cool air alone for a moment. The stars were faint, but persistent above the city glow. She thought of the woman she had been on that first night, shaking at a restaurant table, convinced she was invisible. She realized with a quiet ache that she wished she could reach back through time and sit across from that version of herself. She would not offer grand promises. She would simply let her know that life had not finished speaking yet. If this story is stirring something inside you, if it reminds you of your own waiting or healing, take a moment right now to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement carries these stories forward to hearts still searching. Please pause for just a second and leave a comment, even a single word, before the ending if this story has touched something personal in you. Years later, Abigail would still remember that first night not as the moment she was chosen by another person, but as the moment she finally believed she was worthy of being chosen at all. Nathaniel would tell people that their meeting did not save him from grief, but taught him how to walk beside it without sinking. They built a life that was not perfect, but it was patient. It grew through ordinary mornings, unexpected storms, unmended hurts that learned to breathe, and a love that never needed to be loud to be real. And somewhere beneath the everyday noise of their shared life, the whisper that once said no one wanted her had faded into a memory so quiet it no longer held power, replaced by the steady truth that sometimes the right person walks in at the exact moment hope feels most foolish, just to prove that it was never foolish at all.